actually tank moves in rare occasions, but just not very well. And anyway, we see no Typhlosion so far. We see Claydol into Malamar, an advantage for Maxy here because of the threat of foul play, but it's not as crystal clear as that. Claydol's Mud Slaps do chip away quite well onto Malamar.
They almost do as much as a foul play. Let's see if Nickname takes the same approach as Maxy last game. Shields up. The first foul play, very smart choice, would deal a tremendous amount of damage. Also, you're playing a very, very bulky line here with Azumarill and Corviknight in the back. So there is no Pokemon that really needs shields. You can just use them for pure value.
Yes, for sure. And it's deciding where to use the shields to get the most utility out of them. Foul play coming in here. This one is now a debuff foul play, which means Nickname decides to no shield and tank the second super effective foul play, which doesn't even bring Claydol to half health.
Oh, and this looks like it is going to be a Claydol farm down. Azumarill catches a charge attack here. That was such a good catch by Nickname because he actually needed 12 more turns to farm down with the Mud Slaps.
And now Azumarill is coming in here, which actually is good for Maxy because that means his Talonflame in the back can avoid this Azumarill. The downside is Maxy needs to stay aware that Claydol has a Rock Tomb banked, and that Rock Tomb will one-hit KO the Talonflame, so he has to be guarded around that. Play rough now coming through. We've also learned that Maxy's Azumarill wins charge attack priority over Nickname's, which might be useful information in this best of 5.
Actually, I will be honest with you, I think that Talonflame might be able to hang on to a Rock Tomb of Claydol.
Oh, okay, but you really don't want to take
really
that.
Not good. Don't find out.
So now both trainers are rushing to another play rough here, another charge attack priority event, again demonstrating that Maxy does win that tie-up. So play rough is coming to. There's a bit more health on Maxy's Azumarill as well, which we hopefully will be a little advantage to him in the end game.
Yep, Maxy has the time and also the protect shields here because he didn't have to use one on his Malamar versus the Claydol. But Malamar, unfortunately, is already back to the Pokeball, so everything is now on Talonflame. And if you're going to play that out in the end game, it is going to be debuffed so incredibly quickly.
But now with a swap, here comes the Incinerate. Does Nickname swap out? No, he doesn't. He's staying in and he's trying to get the Ice Beam off. Does he manage to do it? No, the Incinerate takes out Azumarill. That is a huge farm down for Maxy.
That is massive. He has the shield advantage. He can clear a possible debuff later on, even though he's going to buff himself up again. There you're going to see the first Rock Tomb. We're not going to find out if it would have hang on here, because also you're severely chipped, but he goes for another Incinerate and now a Fly immediately because that might actually knock out from that range.
And it's such an efficient, it's a more efficient charge attack here, and Claydol does need to be removed because we do not want to take more Rock Tombs here. Now the final Pokemon is revealed. It is that Corviknight. Maxy is looking very happy here. Flame Charge now coming in to boost the damage output of those Incinerates. Corviknight's main threat is that Sky Attack landing on the Talonflame here because the Iron Heads are resisted, the Sand Attacks are resisted, and there's nothing more Corviknight can do as Incinerate burns through all that steel.
So well played by Maxy. Also with a little bit of luck or a great line call instead with the Corviknight in the back on the side of Nickname. If it was any other Pokemon, Nickname could have had a chance there, even though Maxy, identifying Talonflame as the win condition, played it out really, really nicely. Got the energy on that Talonflame with the Flame Charge, showing just how strong fast attack pressure is.
Yes, and Maxy is demonstrating a skill that a lot of trainers have, especially at this high level, and that is about so-called predicting the backline. You mentioned this earlier. Predicting the backline is because you have a team of 6 Pokemon and you've seen the first 2, you can then make a guess what makes logical sense to have as the third. Yeah. For example, if you have a, to use an example, not necessarily from these teams, if you have a Talonflame and you had an electric type, and those are the first 2 Pokemon that you saw, it's pretty likely that the third Pokemon would be a counter to the counters of the Typhlosion and electric type. So one common weakness they have is ground. So you'd maybe expect a grass or a water type to be in the back, and this is an example of predicting a backline based on typings. It's a bit more complicated than that, I will admit, because there are Pokemon that
That's
have...
a good example though.
Yeah, but it's a nice example for those of you just tuning in, trying to get a basic understanding of guessing the backline. This is the way to think about it as a first step.
Listen, Adelian, sometimes it's not even more complicated than that. If we're taking a step back to Seville, the line that HK Assassin ran the most in the Grand Finals was Talonflame, a fire type.
Yep.
Unova Stunfisk, an electric type, and Superior in the back, a grass type.
Yep, and that is actually a classic example that won him a championship. And of course, these two trainers are looking to replicate that. They too want to be a champion, a special championship winner here. Nickname versus Maxy. Nickname has the advantage because in a double elimination format, he's on the winner's side of the bracket, which means Maxy has to beat him twice in two best of fives in order to claim victory. But this is the best result Maxy has had so far, and he may push it one step further. Game 2, lock and loaded. Shadow Drapion faces off against Shadow Typhlosion. Clash of the Shadows.
And that is, contrary to my belief earlier, not a good matchup for the Shadow Typhlosion, because usually you can't farm it down when you're using two shields. So Nickname is immediately going to throw a Thunder Punch, forces out a shield from Maximilian.P.
But the nice thing for Maxy is that it has given Drapion one extra full Poison Sting, now responding with an Azumarill where the Drapion's extra energy isn't going to do too much. Maxy launching the Crunch here, which is the better attack to go for. Both are resisted, but this is same type attack bonus and has the chance of a debuff. Is there one? There isn't.
Oh, I think you could do 3 more Poison Stings and then go into your Lapras. Exactly what is happening. Nickname has to throw the energy here, which is not so well used onto that Lapras as it would have been onto that Shadow Drapion. Has a huge energy advantage over that Shadow Typhlosion, and also the backline of him is now energy-loaded Shadow Drapion and Azumarill to combat that Shadow Typhlosion.
And what's really nice is Maxy's Lapras is running Skull Bash here. Skull Bash gives an opportunity for Lapras to do some real damage to the Azumarill and weaken it, but Maxy's actually not shielding any of this, just wants to use the Skull Bash to take out the Azumarill. And does he have enough energy for the Typhlosion when that comes back in?
We're gonna see, because I think he's now only at 2 sideways. The Typhlosion comes in here. Is there going to be an Incinerate down? He's going to reach that sparkling area while going down on that the Lapras HP here.
This is the downside of Skull Bash. It's actually raised defense, but it's allowed Typhlosion to have extra farm here. And there is a beautiful switch in and immediately trying to go for the Aqua Gel and tease that final shield. Nickname now shieldless, and Typhlosion is defenseless after this.
I don't think that Maximilian.P wanted to hang on with 1 HP on the Lapras there, because that is one full Incinerate. Second shield used on that Shadow Drapion here.
Yes, but now Typhlosion is dry on energy. And look at Maxy, the clever thing he's done. 1 Poison Sting, then launching the Aqua Gel to avoid taking any damage from the Incinerate. The damage registers on the 4th turn of an Incinerate. Claydol coming in, which will get the farm down here, but not before Maxy can get another Aqua Tail off. How many Aqua Tails have we seen this match?
So many already. 2 Poison Stings, so the damage doesn't register yet. The Claydol is already really chipped. And there comes Azumarill, which is a huge matchup for Maximilian.P, with also only a 1 HP Azumarill in the back for Nickname and his own Lapras that is at 1 HP. It is looking like Maximilian.P really wants to reset that bracket.
But the careful thing that both these trainers have to be mindful of is the potential for a catch. There was an attempt made at a catch. Lapras comes in to make the counter catch. That's not successful, but the chip damage on the side waves is very useful here. More bubbles, and Nickname has had his Azumarill knocked out, and there's nothing defending that Claydol. Ice Beam coming in. No debuffs. This surely blasts the Claydol back into its Pokeball.
2-0 for Maximilian.P already. Nickname has to be happy that this is a best of 5, because if it was any other match other than the final in this tournament, he would have been knocked down to the losers bracket already. Maximilian.P is looking like he's not going to give up anything in this tournament. It is a really tough task to come back from the loser side and reset that bracket, and this is looking good for Maximilian.P.
But we saw that momentum shifts like the winds. We saw in Sevilla how much of a back and forth it was between the champion and the eventual champion and the finalist. So I would not count Nickname out. Nickname could do that so-called reverse sweep. 3 wins in a row doesn't seem like that, but within 15-20 minutes it could all be over. So Nickname really needs to consider, what can I do differently here?
Delian, what would be the line that you would run in the place of Nickname? What would be your Pokemon that you would bring here?
Against Maxy, I would run away. But no, in all seriousness, we have seen the Talonflame be dangerous. We have seen the Drapion also be very useful here. So the thing is, Claydol with a bit of energy might be a play, because the thing is, Claydol's quite slow to get to the Rock Tomb. Once it has a Rock Tomb or is close to it, suddenly all those defenses of, you know, having Aqua Tail or Crunch, they kind of slip away from Drapion because it doesn't matter if you're going to throw a Crunch, I'll get to a Rock Tomb before you, and hopefully I can debuff you enough that the Crunches are not a threat. But that's the thing, getting into that position, allowing Claydol to have a nice bit of farm is going to be decisive for Nickname, in my opinion.
Yep, I do agree that the Claydol is looking so good right now, even though there are so many dangerous Pokemon on the side of Maximilian. You have some Pokemon that are becoming incredibly dangerous if they have energy. You have the Azumarill, and you of course also have the Malamar. So I think, because all of these Pokemon are difficult to handle for Claydol with energy, I think that Nickname is very tempted to lead the Claydol, as he did in the game before. But that was read by Maximilian.
Yes, it really was, and now Talonflame is coming in. This is a read. Oh, it's a read and a half. Corviknight versus Talonflame. Talonflame is going hunting time.
Oh, but wait a second. Wait a second. That is not something that Maxi appreciates here. The Azumarill safe swap is really, really good, but he can, of course, go for the good old play, the chip and dip. Throw a fly into the Azumarill and then go into your own Azumarill. You don't get the energy advantage, except for a little bit, but you can secure a switch here with your Azumarill.
Yes, the thing to be mindful of is that Nickname's switch timer will run out earlier than Maxi, so Maxi needs to be conscious of that. Nonetheless, this play rough is going to bounce off the blubber of Maxi's Azumarill here, and he can respond with his own play rough, which is potentially going to bring Nickname's Azumarill into the red.
Yep, I think that Maxi is almost guaranteed at this point to keep switch, to have the Talonflame on the Corviknight. So, as you said earlier, Nickname will have to put it all on that Claydol. He needs to get a farm down with Claydol, and he's trying to enable that by chipping on this Azumarill from Maximilian P, but the HP disadvantage that he has is just so huge. Actually, Maxi is going to exit that matchup with a little bit of residual energy, so even if you're bringing in your Claydol now, it's gonna get ice beamed.
Yeah, that is going to be a threat, so let's see what happens. No, Corviknight's coming back in, because the idea is for Nickname that you don't want to, you're happy to take the damage on the Corviknight, which is going to get burnt by the Talonflame anyway. Might as well take the damage with this Azumarill on the ice beam. So I like this play by Nickname. Can he utilize this advantage to the best of his ability?
The question is, does he swap out into the Claydol now to get energy? No, he wants to have residual energy on the Corviknight to threaten some damage into that Talonflame and perhaps get a shield from a Sky attack. Iron Head is going to be used now to finish the HP of Azumarill here.
Yes, and now Talonflame, I expect, will come back in. There comes an Incinerate. They're both, I think Maxi waited a little bit as well to see if there would be an immediate swap out. There wasn't. Maxi, considering whether to shield or not, decides to no-shield the Sky attack, which takes a huge amount of damage onto the Talonflame, and now it's a Claydol mirror matchup.
Which one wins the charge attack priority? That is the huge question that you have to ask yourself. Both go for the Rock Tomb immediately. Charge attack priority tie win by Maximilian P. All the stars seem to align for him.
It really does seem to be working out very nicely. These trainers now exchanging Rock Tombs. Bear in mind that the first Rock Tomb is going to cause the debuffs, which means that Nickname's Rock Tomb does less damage, immediately giving an advantage to Maxi. That's compounded by the charge attack priority event.
At least you're never going to be in a situation where your Mudslaps are more debuffed than the ones of your opponent, because they're pacing to the same time. This is also not a coin flip. Maximilian P's shiny Claydol keeps winning charge attack priority.
And the thing is, even if Maxi loses and allows his Claydol to go down, if he leaves the Claydol of Nickname quite low, that means Talonflame can incinerate it down. So this is looking very good. You can see that Maxi's Claydol is actually a little bit lower, got to the red first. They're over-farming Lilian, trying to get a catch, and there was no, that wasn't been caught. Corviknight now coming in, Talonflame trying to burn it down. It is a race, a shield comes out right at the very last minute here. Is Corviknight going to be able to break through after this shield?
Maximilian P has another shield left. He's going to throw that fly into the Claydol. Claydol sits there and wants to continue playing this game. He does not give up on this winner's side spot, but he is going to throw a Rock Tomb here. No, doesn't reach it, doesn't knock out the Talonflame. Fly is going to connect, and Maximilian P with a 3-0 resets the bracket.
Absolutely incredible. I cannot believe Maxy has been able to pull that off so decisively. Trainers, for those of you watching at home, a bracket reset has taken place, which means Maxy is the first trainer to issue Nickname with a loss across this entire tournament.
Now something is going to happen that I find absolutely hilarious. That is because both of these trainers who made it this far in the tournament, get an L to their name because they're both now in the loser's bracket.
Yes, and so with this bracket reset, these trainers will get a few moments to consider, to consolidate their thoughts, because this is a fresh new set of 5 battles potentially. So this is where it's going to be, you know what? What worries me is that the thought process, because the pressure is really on, especially if you're Nickname.
Yeah.
Pressure's on, because you're like, I've lost 3 in a row, just bang, bang, bang like that. How am I going to get myself out of this? And I have to wallow in that worry. So let me swap that around though on Maxy's side. Maxy has never done this before, so the pressure is really on that. Can I do it? Can I do it once more?
He has just won basically. For him, this is just a winning thing, right? But, yeah, he has to go for 3 more wins against Nickname. We're going to see soon how he achieved the first wins in this best of 5 in a whopping 3-0. But we've also seen in Seville that even though Pataman 3-0'd HK Assassin in the first set, after the reset, that was a 3-0 back.
Yeah, and of course,
that was so good.
This was a sublime catch. I really like this. This was very predictable for Nickname to recognize that, you know what, just before Claydol goes down, it's going to try and throw a foul play. What's the best answer to take all the charge attacks of a Malamar? Of course, it's got to be Azumarill.
Yep, Azumarill is walling this energy, which is a reason why people disregarded Malamar before Sevilla, and after that it just rose in popularity after Borja MN danced his way to a medal with the Malamar.
Yes, indeed, he did. And also, you have to consider that Tinkaton going down in usage means that actually there's a little bit more space for Malamar, because Tinkaton is a harder answer to Malamar here, but not as useful into the rest of the meta. So it's interesting to see all those relationships between different Pokemon in the meta and how it almost stops being like a this beats this, beats this, and becomes a web of this kind of beats this kind of beats that, and this really does beat this. But then, of course, that's all assuming a standing start. What happens when you give a little bit of energy to this Pokemon or that Pokemon? That is what makes a difference when trainers know and expect the outcomes based on a little energy gain.
Exactly, and of course, it always sounds easy to say, hey, if
yeah,
you're giving your Shadow drop you on some energy, it just goes through the entire team of your opponent. You're asking yourself, how do I get energy? Because my opponent is just going to get the same amount of energy.
Yeah.
And the secret to that, the secret sauce, is soft losing matchups.
Yes, yes. In fact, why don't you tell me a bit more about soft losing matchups? Because I would actually like a refresher.
I will be glad to. So, if you are playing, for example, a lead matchup or a base haste swap matchup, it's just any matchup that you're playing, and your opponent wins that matchup, so knocks out your Pokemon, but only leaves with a slither of HP and not a lot of energy, just to a point where your next Pokemon that comes in can farm down that Pokemon with fast attacks, so knock it out with fast attacks and generate energy to carry on into the next matchup, then you are in a very, very good spot if the matchup isn't alignment dependent. So if you basically know that the last Pokemon that you're having is a superior, and you are giving up Switch by losing the lead, and your opponent has a Talonflame, you know, then maybe playing for a little bit of energy is not the right play for you. But if you are playing in a matchup like these trainers where you're knowing, hey, this might be a slightly positive matchup for him, but if I can get some more energy on my other Pokemon, then I can flip that matchup, and this is how these trainers operate.
Yes, they do. I mean, we have seen many, many Azumarill mirror matchups, and that's often determined by who decides to launch their player off first. Charge attack priority and a little bit of additional bulk may make the difference. But, so the Azumarill that wins, you might think, oh, great, I beat my opponent's Azumarill, but your Azumarill is left on quite low health. Then, a Feraligatr comes in and can Shadow Claw your Azumarill down, and then suddenly you've got a Feraligatr that you're facing with a bit of energy, and we've seen how many Shadow Feraligatr sweeps just because they had a huge energy advantage. That is the beauty of being able to farm down a Pokemon that's already quite weak.
And in this specific scenario, most of the time, which other Pokemon is bulky and resists all of these Hydro Cannons if it is not the Azumarill on your team?
Yeah, that's true.
So you are in a very big pickle if that is the case. So, we're going to be able to start the bracket reset soon. Nickname versus Maxy. Nickname was undefeated so far, and now Maxy comes in from the loser side of the bracket and crushes with a 3-0 versus Nickname.
Yes, and Maxy seems to be in the driving seat so far. However, momentum shifts so easily. Nickname has recently won a regional in Stockholm and is experienced at this level, and it's a recent experience as well. He also has done it before in Bremen many years ago. Maxy has never ever got this far, but has come close many times, and I just know how much it would mean to him to finalize his victory, finalize one of his last efforts this season with a championship medal.
We almost even saw a rematch of the Bremen finals from back then. Zephymastics going to 4th place in this very tournament.
Yeah.
Who played the finals versus Nickname in Bremen that he won. But now, Maxy1000000P knocked him out just by the slightest of margins. 1 HP survive on the Shadow Dropion versus the Hex, forced Zephymastics to throw another attack there. It was a very, very close matchup. And now Maxy versus Nickname. Maxy has shown dominance here. He has played out of his mind, especially when he was playing versus Zweiles, who's also nobody to scoff at.
Absolutely not.
Him twice.
And Zweiles often plays the mind games himself and is a fabulous trainer in his own right. But right now, there are two titans in Pokemon GO standing tall. Nickname hailing from Poland, Maxy hailing from the UK. Both of these trainers very, very keen to get going. Now it's the start, the reset for the grand finals. One of these trainers will be your Utrecht champion. Game 1 starting now. Malamar versus Azumarill.
Trainers, let's play some Pokemon GO here. This is a positive matchup for Nickname. However, we have seen how players attempt this. This is not an immediate swap out. Your Psywaves deal a lot of damage to that Azumarill. This might come down to a potential catch attempt here. Not happening on the watch of Nickname. Brings in the Ferret, saves the energy on his own. Azumarill there is actually on more energy than the Malamar. That might be useful later. Now Nickname is going to throw a Trailblaze here immediately. Actually, Azumarill wins this matchup in the straight zero shield scenario.
But I really like the fact that Nickname has chosen to bring his Ferret here because he makes sure, alignment-wise, he keeps that Ferret away from the Malamar. A Malamar with all that energy with the superpowers would be a threat. So this is actually quite good, not to mention the the attack advantage of Trailblaze being a grass-type attack facing off against the water-type Azumarill.
But you can see here how much Nickname values the Ferret, that he didn't even bring once in the first set, so changing things up already. Doesn't deal enough damage to knock out the Azumarill. Azumarill goes for one more bubble, and a player of this one probably will go unshielded. And then, of course, Nickname can farm down with Sucker Punches. This Azumarill gets a lot of energy out of that matchup, but there's still energy on the Malamar from Maxy1000000P. Keep in mind, also a lot of energy on that Azumarill.
Yes, and Sporit is actually able to launch that Swift first. Maxy opting not to throw his charge attack straight away. I was expecting Foul Play to come through very quickly and get the knockout, but no. Now there is the Foul Play coming through, and this is going to be enough to knock out. This is why there was no need for a superpower here, despite it dealing super effective damage, because Foul Play is enough, and the energy required for both is the same. Now Lapras comes in against a weakened Azumarill, but with a lot of energy on Nickname's side.
But Nickname can also follow this up with the Claydol. Of course, the Azumarill is still very healthy, so you don't have to have exactly one charge attack stored to beat Malamar in that endgame, especially at this low HP. And now, of course, if you're having one shield only, I think you're tempted to use it now once this is undebuffed. You're going to throw a Rock Tomb very soon.
Yes, and Rock Tomb is coming very, very soon. Now we're here. As soon as Nickname has it, he's launching it. Maxy has to use his shields here. This would guarantee a knockout otherwise. For now, because of the shields, only the debuff goes through. Down goes the attack of Lapras, but that Sparkling Aria is still going to deal a lot of damage.
I see one potential play that Maxy can do here, and that is go for the Sparkling Aria here, farm up a little more energy, and then go for the Foul Play knockout on that Claydol. Get rid of all of this precious energy there, and then have a 2v1 versus Azumarill, because you still have a lot of energy. Oh, it actually hangs on here. Azumarill is being brought in. Can it get the bubble down here?
Yes, I think it can. I think Maxy needed to farm up a little bit more with that Lapras, but didn't want to take more damage on his Lapras at the same time, so swapped in early. Didn't get the knockout he wanted. Azumarill gets that bubble in. There's so much energy on this Azumarill now.
Oh, the big question is, can Azumarill outpace? It is going to throw an Ice Beam into the shield. Is that the win condition for Maxy1000000P? That this is an Ice Beam bait. Does he call it? No! no! He actually does not call it, puts the Protect shield up, and now the Azumarill is going to rush to that play rough. You're going to throw a Sparkling Aria on Charge Protect priority.
Yes, Charge Attack priority, that Lapras does win, but Sparkling Aria is a Water-type attack. Azumarill does have the bulk to withstand, and here comes that play rough, unresisted. There is nothing Lapras can do. It's a sitting Pokemon here as the play rough comes through, absolutely wipes out the Lapras, and just like that, momentum seems to be shifting in a positive direction for Nickname.
Both trainers laughing it off right now. I love the camaraderie, the sportsmanship in this Nickname, showing, hey, I am not out of this. Furret did a lot of work here, and I think that there was a slight moment where Maximilian realized, oh, this was not how I planned it to be, and that was a miscount on the Furret of Nickname, because when Furret knocked out the Azumarill, it was one Sucker Punch away from the Swift. Maximilian P did not throw a foul play immediately.
Yeah.
He actually went for 3 sideways, then was maxed out on energy and still had to throw without getting anything else.
Yeah, so that really didn't work out. I also didn't like the fact that Lapras didn't farm up a little bit more energy to weaken the Claydol and bring it into foul play knockout range, because of course Claydol did survive, but I will give but credit where it's due, that is a hard thing to calculate in the heat of the moment, and there may also be another concern that Maxi had, that if I do farm up more with Psywave on my Lapras, it means that I will be taking more Mud Slap damage from the Claydol, which will make my Lapras even more weak, and that might have been a concern.
Another concern was that the switch timer was not up yet. I think that Maximilian P wanted to completely deny a potential catch, even though with 1-turn fast attacks versus 3-turn fast attacks, you can basically always guarantee to not get caught.
Yes, that is very true as well. And of course, these trainers are aware of each other's talents, are aware that catching is going to be a very common thing that these trainers try to do to each other, because we saw earlier in this tournament with both of these trainers and with others just how decisive one catch can be to completely change the direction of a battle. So trainers are considering, you can see how much thought is needed at this level, because Maxi needs to bring momentum back to his side after that first loss he's suffered so far against Nickname.
Is Furret going to win a special championship in this first match of these winners grand finals? Nickname did not bring the Furret, it didn't work out, and now the Furret is on the team twice. He's already won one game, he's 1-0 up versus Maximilian P, and now it's Azumarill versus Shadow Drapion. I know that matchup, I've seen that somewhere.
Yes, this matchup is quite common. Drapion does have the advantage with the Poison Stings, however the charge attacks from Drapion are not that great against Azumarill. The Fairy typing resists the Dark type Crunch, the Water typing of Azumarill resists the Water type Aqua Tail. Crunch coming in, a debuff would make things very nice here. No debuff this time for Maxi though.
And I think if Maximilian P shields up this Shadow Drapion rather soon and gets a debuff here, he might be in a really good spot, because look at the backline of Nickname. There is no Claydol that can farm you down.
And the debuff has indeed happened, and now the Poison Stings will be able to do more damage. A play rough coming through. Maxi actually opting to no shield this, maybe expecting the Claydol's going to be there and doesn't want to give too much farm. It is a charge attack priority event, which Drapion wins, and Crunch is going to get the knockout here. Now will Maxi realize, is there a Claydol in the back? He's about to find out.
If there is a Claydol in the back, it could have already come out, to be honest, to try and mud slap down the energy of that Shadow Feraligatr. But Nickname has a Jumpluff in the back, and now this is where Maxi starts smirking, because he has the Talonflame as the hard answer.
Yes, he does, and a swap out into the Furret. Actually, Talonflame staying in, wanting to weaken this Furret even more, go for even more Incinerate damage before a Swift is launched at the Talonflame here. Does Maxi opt to shield this, because this is a very important Pokemon? No, trusting in the bulk of his Talonflame here.
But he farmed up a lot of energy and now is going to throw the fly here. Could also opt to throw another fly immediately afterwards. Has the Azumarill. Keep in mind, Azumarill, especially if the Jumpluff is chipped a little bit, can deal a lot of damage with Ice Punch. Nickname does not go for the immediate Swift. He actually farms up more energy with these Sucker Punches and goes for a Trailblaze.
I really like this. Nickname was expecting the swap and has actually saved his energy to get that Trailblaze off. It's not going to be enough to get any more significant damage beyond one Trailblaze, but now Jumpluff does have an advantage with because it's going to resist the bubbles, but the Ice Beam is still a concerning aspect. Maxy actually trusting in his Talonflame, keeping both shields for it. Here comes the Acrobatics. It does not knock out.
Oh, that is not a bait. This is absolutely massive for Nickname, because now he can start spamming Aerial Ace against everything. Acrobatics is not a charge attack for him anymore. Aerial Ace will knock out every Pokemon that there is.
That being said, Azumarill is able to get to those Ice Beams quickly. He's a charge attack priority event. Jumpluff, despite being so defensive, is able to win it, but Maxy, recognizing that, says, I want to clear all your shields. I'm going to launch this Ice Beam at you, and you have to shield this. Charge attack priority. Maxy gets the Ice Beam off. Nickname shielding it. Now we're going to see what happens. There's no shields. Is Talonflame in a safe position to come back in? Yes, it is.
I think you do one Incinerate to take this damage, knowing you're going to win any charge attack priority that could ever happen, because you want the Incinerate damage, and now you're going for a Fly, hoping that this knocks out the Jumpluff immediately. The question is Shadow Jumpluff bulky enough?
Is Shadow Jumpluff bulky enough? Let's see. Let's find out. Is it enough? It is! It just about survives on 1 HP, but one more Incinerate takes it out. Jumpluff is wiped out. Maxy brings momentum back to his side. 1-1 apiece in this reset of the Grand Finals.
Nickname going for a soft loss in the beginning. They're getting some energy in, but he got the energy on the Shadow Jumpluff, revealing that he's so weak to that Talonflame in the back for Maxy1000000P. And then if you're playing this alignment-dependent backline, soft losing is not for you.
No, it really is not. And Maxy has done this many times to Nickname in this matchup, not just in the reset, but in the previous 3-0s. How many times have we seen Talonflame just go, right, boost, hit, boost, Flame Charge, boost, fly, boost. It just keeps going. This is a tried tactic that Nickname seems to be struggling to deal with. And I think part of the reason is, if you look at Nickname's team, the only real hard answer to that Talonflame is the Azumarill and the Typhlosion to an extent.
Yep, I mean, is it that hard of an answer? It's a very good answer. If there is Brave Bird, Talonflame can actually win the zero shield scenario. In any case, Talonflame is going to get 2 flies off against the Azumarill to possibly soft lose that matchup as well.
Yes.
Ferret also has play versus Talonflame. If you have a very defensive Ferret with a lot of HP, then you might hang on to Incinerate.
Yes.
But this is, of course, a very free Pokemon there. If Maximilian gets to win leads and gets to have the Azumarill on the Pokemon that he wants, Talonflame is always going to serve him well. But there is, of course, I think one harder answer to that Talonflame, and that is Shadow Typhlosion.
Yes, and Shadow Typhlosion could come in and be very useful here, but it's such a risky thing for Nickname to bring in, because the Drapion outpaces with the Aqua Tail. The Lapras is able to threaten and tease shields with Sparkling Aria. There are so many other Pokemon that can be a threat here that's going to cause Nickname to go, oh, I don't want to risk it. Well, don't forget that Maxy has a Claydol as well and his own Azumarill. The Azumarill is a little bit more hit and miss because it's not going to threaten with any charge attacks, but the Bubble Chip is problematic. Let's find out. We are 1 apiece. Shadow Drapion against Claydol. We've seen this before. This is a very interesting matchup.
This is such a strong lead for Nickname here. Forces a swap out, immediately answers the Azumarill with Ferret, showing, hey, I have a game plan. I want to keep switch here. I might go a shield down just to have my Ferret rather healthy with a boost and a lot of energy.
Here comes the first Trailblaze. That should not be shielded because Azumarill has the bulk. It might be super effective, but it's not a hard-hitting charge attack. But the boosts afterwards are going to help it become a hard-hitting charge attack. Play Rough coming in. You are right, Leo. The first shield used early to protect Ferret and get a lot of health preserved on this Pokemon.
And I think both of these trainers have kind of found the solution to this matchup now. Nickname going, hey, I try to win with energy. Maxy also did the same thing basically, but now we're going alignment dependent in the backline, because if Nickname keeps switching, which I'm very sure he will, actually, unless he stops tapping.
Yeah, if he stops tapping, then let's see what happens here. I've noticed Nickname undercharged slightly on that Trailblaze. Maxy jumping back in with the Drapion to get some extra energy. Keen to prevent Azumarill getting farmed down here, and that extra energy means the Claydol coming back in is now going to take a bit more damage. Let's see what charge attack is launched. Maxy opting for the Crunch here, which is the harder hitting attack. Does Nickname use his final precious protection? No, he doesn't.
but Claydol is going to withstand all of those poison sticks. And in the backline, there's Azumarill waiting for the Malamar, so Nickname really just needed switch here. By swapping out into the Shadow Drapion, Maxy guaranteed that switch again, even though Ferret would have just Sucker Punch down that Azumarill. There's a possible catch opportunity here, but oh, Nickname actually going for 2 more Mudslaps, throwing Eruptum here, maximizing energy.
I actually like this because Nickname had to do that, use that, build up that extra energy. He was safe to do so. He knew the counts of the...
Perfect.
Yes, and this is where Nickname is able to get that Rock Tomb off on the Malamar here and weaken it a little bit more, and then he can perhaps consider swapping out if he wishes to.
Yep, he does not even have to, but he very well can. I think you're dealing a lot of damage with those Mudslaps. It makes it easier for Azumarill to go for a bubble down here. We're going to see a foul play eventually launched at this Claydol, but there is Azumarill in the back. The water and fairy type that has dominated the meta for years and years is back, and it's looking to close out this game.
And Maxy realizing that I do not have enough firepower to deal with my opponent's Azumarill. There are so many answers that he might have on the team, but he doesn't have any of them on the field anymore. His own Azumarill knocked out early on, and he was often using Azumarill to deal with his opponent's Azumarill here, and now that's just not there. Malamar able to do nothing as it is ice beamed down.
This is a very Azumarill-centric matchup for both of these trainers. You have a specific target for your Azumarill. In the case of Maxy, it is the Azumarill of Nickname actually that he wants to lock down with his own, because Shadow Drapion has problems with his energy. The Lapras is very good against the Azumarill, arguably. You don't want it on the Talonflame, you don't want it on the Claydol, you don't want it on the Malamar. You need your own Azumarill to be on that Azumarill. And now that Nickname has figured this out and knows how to keep switch with the Ferret, for example, this is very hard for Maxy to achieve. I think that Nickname might have cracked the code.
Yes, and this is what practice and playing against your opponent regularly and multiple times over this last grand finals, and as well as the first 3 matches of the reset, has allowed Nickname to gain that pattern. This is all about observing, watching your opponent's play style, and this is what, for those watching at home or those on stage, watching at the stage, you can see what the tactics are from what your opponents do in prior matches, and use that to your advantage when you play them if you end up on stream against them or on the Pokémon GO Hive playing off stream.
Now I want to see if Nickname uses this information advantage that Maxy just gained against him immediately. Is he going for a rather energy important backline there? Because there is the chance to play the offensive core of Ferret and Typhlosion and show how flexible Ferret really is by actually not winning the matchup that it plays, but soft losing them against something like an Azumarill and then get a huge Incinerate down. And once Incinerate down happens, with 2 Incinerates, it's very hard for your opponent.
Yes, it very much is. This is the time to bring Shadow Typhlosion, I think, if you are going to. So let's find out what these trainers are thinking. What is in the minds of these 2 trainers? What adaptations will be there? Does Maxy opt to, because he saw how iffy that Claydol was and how much of a struggle it was to deal with that matchup, does he go with it back to that double water strategy he was running with the Azumarill and the Lapras? Does he trust that Shadow Drapion and the outpace? We are about to find out. It's 2 matches won by Nickname. He's looking for 1 more to be your champion. Maxy needs 2 more wins. A relatively safe matchup. We've seen this before. Drapion into Azumarill. Those poison stings dealing super effective damage to the fairy type Pokemon.
Nickname, I think, still might be a little happy to see this. Another catch attempt for an Ice Beam or a Play Rough here does not happen. Ferret is the answer. There is a lot of energy on the Shadow Drapion. Keep in mind, no Claydol on the line of Nickname.
Yes, but Maxy doesn't know that the Claydol isn't there, but nonetheless, that extra energy will be useful for whatever's in the backline in some way, shape, or form, because the energy is most useless against the Azumarill of Nickname, and that Azumarill is still on the field. So this, that Azumarill is, we have to remove the alignment from it if you're Maxy. So Maxy's bringing in his own Azumarill to try and weaken this Ferret and try and at least allow for more farm down later on, maybe.
Ferret is now going for a Trailblaze here. Maxy, of course, no shields. This Nickname wants to have multiple ways to set this up for a win, because he kind of needs the Azumarill to be on that Shadow Drapion. So I think even though you have a Shadow Typhlosion in the back, you might want to shield this. He decides not to, wants to maybe go for a Farm down here. Is this the Incinerate down that I was talking about earlier against an Azumarill?
Yes, so let's see what comes in. Here comes that Incinerate. Is that going to be up? No, he gets 2 Incinerates, which is perfect for Nickname. He now has a Thunder Punch lock and loaded, and a third one coming through. Aqua Tail, though, so much energy. This is going to tease that shield from the Typhlosion because it cannot handle any sort of Aqua Tail damage.
That is gonna be all the Aqua Tails in the world. Immediately throws a Thunder Punch. Full Poison Sting sneaks through here. This is going to be, of course, another shield for Maxy1000000P. Using that one. Should have another one in the back. Both trainers at one. Combo play from Nickname with an Ice Beam onto the Shadow Drapion.
And that is really, really tricky for Maxi because he needs to preserve that shield for Typhlosion. Does actually preserve it and switches back out. Lapras now coming in to 1 shield apiece. Lapras does have that Skull Bash, which means that Azumarill is going to struggle to deal with it, but the Play Roughs are going to come in and weaken this Lapras as well.
This is kind of looking good for Maxi because now the Lapras is very strong in this matchup against Azumarill. This is what he wants to target it with, and he wants to exit with a lot of energy, get a potential farm down there, force the last shield from the Shadow Typhlosion to finish the next attack with Shadow Drapion.
But Nickname is aware of this and shields the Azumarill, valuing that the Azumarill needs to weaken this Lapras even more, and is the idea for Nickname to bring Typhlosion in to get a farm down afterwards. But this Playrough has not done enough damage. Here it comes. Is it going to be able to get it? No! Typhlosion has to launch the Thunder Punch here.
He launches the Thunder Punch, but the Lapras is going to be able to reach that sparkling area. Does 3 more, doesn't even take that damage if he wants to. Could have done 1 more and take the Incinerate damage, decides not to. There is the Azumarill in the back for Nickname. The win condition for Nickname here is Azumarill again. It is so low on energy, it might even be outpaced to a Skull Bash. Maxi throws the sparkling area.
I think this is a really good play by Nickname, by Maxi, because the Sparkling Aria will bring the Azumarill into Crutch Rate. Is there going to be a combo? No, there's no combo here. Going to the Ice Beam. What is going on? Is he going to go for the Psy Wave down? Is he forcing the energy? Sparkling Aria comes through twice over. What a way to find a win condition. There were so many, and he went for the one that got us by the edge of our seats here. Sparkling Aria annihilates Azumarill, and it is 2 apiece in this grand finals reset.
Lapras hangs on and gets to that sparkling area. It is game 5 of the special championship in Utrecht in the grand finals reset. Maxy1000000P has been playing out of his mind the entire tournament, but so has Nickname. Nickname going into the grand finals completely undefeated, then being swept by Maxy1000000P and identifying, hey, this is not me. I'm not losing 0-3 here. I'm going to come back stronger. Gets into the lead twice against Maxy1000000, but Maxy1000000 is fighting back. He is crawling back in this matchup. Every time he loses a game, he just comes back stronger in the next one, finds the alignment that he wants, knows that he has to target down the Azumarill.
Yes, and so this is it. This is where it has all come down to. Both of these trainers, 2 wins apiece in a reset. The match comes down to this final battle. The next 3 Pokemon they pick are going to be their potential championship winners. What will be the adjustment in tactics? What will be the last call they make? As this is it. 1 step away. You can see Nickname shaking his head. He's worried. He's thinking, how do I deal with this? Maxi doesn't seem to show any emotion at all, which I find surreal.
I think he's just going back to the good old strategy of just locking in 3 random Pokemon. That's what his face tells me
of course,
right now.
yeah.
But no, I do think that at this point you know how to play this matchup. You know what the risks are, and you know that this Azumarill of Nickname is going to be there every single time. You need a Pokemon on it that can handle it. You need your Azumarill or you need your Lapras on the Azumarill of Nickname. That has to be the strategy. The thing is, Nickname has been leading that Azumarill in 2 games. Do you call that it's in the lead or is it not?
Yeah, that is the tricky thing. Of course, for us watching here, we get to see both sides when the battles eventually start. However, for the trainers, they are thinking, what could my opponent do? They're thinking and then counter-thinking their own thoughts, and you end up going into almost like a 3-way thought process as to, if he leads this, I should lead that. If he leads this, I should lead that. But we don't have to wait too much longer because the grand finals are here. Battle number 5. Match Azumarill versus Claydol. Advantage to Maxi early on. He's looking happy with this one.
That is huge, but that Furret save swap is absolutely powerful here. Of course, you might be able to chip it with an Ice Beam or for a play rough here at some point, but your Azumarill is going to take some damage from that Ferret already. Maxy now has to figure out how to deal with the Ferret. It's boosted already, it has some energy, you need to deal some damage to it. Maybe then go into Talonflame?
Maybe. Let's see what Maxy does. Play rough coming through. It's immediately no shielded by Nickname here. This is going to bring Ferret into the yellow. Does this allow for a swap out? It does indeed, and Talonflame comes in looking for that farm down. Swift, however, has been boosted, and this is a neutral hitting attack. So Talonflame, while it can tank this, it will not be able to tank another one.
Is he going to reach too Swift here? Will to Incinerate knock out? It does look like it won't. Actually hangs on there, goes for another Sucker Punch. He knows that he's going to lose the charge attack priority. Flame Charge is going to come through. Are you shielding this? I don't think so, but actually got rid of the energy on the Talonflame. That is very important. This might be a huge farm down here.
Yes, but what's really nice is that Fly is able to be launched first, and it is a boosted Fly. Azumarill is going to take a huge amount of damage here unless a shield is used. Does Nickname use a shield? He respects it. The shield comes in. Azumarill maintains its bulk.
Damage doesn't register, and Maxy gets a shield from it. That is absolutely massive. Now the Lapras is on that Claydol. He has switch advantage. He can go out into the Azumarill. Gets another shield here. Swaps into the Azumarill immediately. The backline matchup is 2 shield advantage for Maxy with Lapras versus Azumarill.
Claydol is going to launch a Rock Tomb to try and lower the attack of this Azumarill's Ice Beam, and it is a sensible play here. Maxy recognizing, respecting that he needs the HP on the Azumarill. There is the debuff, but the bubbles are chipping away even more. Azumarill is able to get quite a few in. Ice Beam is super effective. This will not knock out, but it's another nice chunk of damage dealt onto the Claydol. Nickname is struggling here.
Azumarill is the bulk monster. It barely reaches the Ice Beam now. Can you hang on to a Rock Tomb there? Or are you going to shield it to handle that Claydol? Shields it up here. Just wants to get rid of the Claydol. Perhaps a catch here. Oh, the Azumarill is coming in from the side of Nickname. This is double debuff play rough. Does Nickname still have play in this?
Nickname is coming through. Maxy is going to launch the play rough here and cause a little bit of chip damage, but it is a charge attack priority event, which is great for Maxy because he's how happy to lose this Azumarill here, and Lapras is coming in. Don't forget, Lapras has Skull Bash on Maxy's side, which means it will deal neutral damage with Psywave, neutral damage with Skull Bash, but it's a race. Who will get to their charge attack first?
That Claydol has a little bit of residual energy left there. The Azumarill starts to outpace the Lapras. Can Nickname knock it out with 2 play roughs in the process and maybe a Mudslap, because Maxy needs to find a lot of energy to handle that Claydol in the back?
Yes, and he hasn't farmed up a lot of energy here. He could have done a little bit more, but there was a concern about that potential catch. Skull Bash coming in. It does not knock out, and now
Claydol comes in.
Claydol. It is a race to those charge attacks. Who will get to the move first? Will it be Talking Aria over farming a little bit? And there is Maxy, having lost count there, has just allowed the Rock Tomb to come through and wipe out the Lapras. Incredible plays here.
Nickname is your Utrecht champion! Maxy1000000P with a crucial miscount, and Nickname, he can't even believe it, throws the Rock Tomb into the Ice and Water type and wins the big finals.